welcome back to Open to Truth, a podcast all about exploring big ideas and discovering truth together. My name's Clint.
Hey, I'm Tony. Welcome back.
Glad to be back in the saddle here.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
I like to do episodes every now and then on current events.
Like the slap.
The most recent one. Now that one waited a couple weeks
That's true.
after to kind of
let it simmer down, yeah.
And this one might be a little bit more timely, but it's just on everyone's mind, and I thought it'd be good for you. And I don't even know if you and I have fully talked about it, if there's even a way to fully talk about something, but the issue of abortion. And now I personally have dialed back on my political intake for probably the past couple months, largely due to bad cell phone internet reception.
Oh, okay.
Can't listen to stuff in the car.
Circumstantial. Not a decision of discipline.
Not principled. Nope. So I'm a little bit out of the loop on some of the details of things. I have a gist of what's happening, and that gist, as far as I see it, is there was a leak of a draft of an opinion piece by the U.S. Supreme Court, which is the part of our three branches for our and we have some Australian listeners, so
I'm always sensitive to the Australian listeners. Let's not take for granted that they understand what's going on. This is
the Supreme Court is the judicial branch of our three branches of government. President, executive, Congress is the legislative. They make the laws, and the Supreme Court, as I understand it, and this is becoming more contentious of late, but is meant to assess whether a law passed by the legislation and signed into law by the president is in fact constitutional.
Yeah.
We are a country governed by the Constitution, and so you want your laws on specifics that come up in how we organize ourselves to be in line, consonant with the Constitution. Okay.
Great setup.
So, part of the proceedings is that different court members can write opinion pieces, draft them, that's going to be presented to the court for a ruling to happen. Well, this is, I think, I want to say, I'll just say it, and if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. But I believe it's the first time that a draft opinion has been leaked to the public prior to it currently being in the court, like the ruling proceedings.
Right. Normally the public is surprised, and there it is in the court.
Yeah. Not the ruling itself, but the
discussion of it.
Yes. So this is unprecedented, and it's
not great that it's gotten leaked.
No, that means someone betrayed their oath,
right,
and is likely to get in trouble if they're found out. I don't know.
Boy, there's a lot that's interesting there to me. What's the motivation behind leaking something like this?
To create public distress so that it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
What we're about to mention.
Exactly what's happening, right.
So the draft opinion piece is the suggestion that this famous court case, Roe versus Wade, be overturned. And that court case, the verdict, if you will, was that the right to an abortion, to terminate a pregnancy, is protected federally. Meaning that no matter what state of the union you're in, any of the 50 states, that you are not legally liable, you won't be prosecuted, you're protected for the act of having an abortion.
Real quick, the opinion piece that got leaked, are we saying that's one of these judges that's written this thing to propose to the other judges for a discussion?
I believe so. It's the majority opinion piece.
The majority opinion piece. Okay. I guess I don't know what that means, but okay.
You know what? I don't know exactly what that means either. Okay. I think it means that the majority of the court...
Are there 7 or 9?
9.
9 of them, 9.
Are in favor, I guess.
Of discussing it.
Of this particular position on it.
Oh, okay.
Like you can get other people to come onto your opinion, your team, I guess, for this particular event. And then there can be a dissenter opinion.
Right.
And X amount of court justices could support that one.
Got it. Okay, that is very helpful for me.
So that does not have to be unanimous. It's a majority rule.
And by you saying it's the majority opinion, you're saying at least as it stood before things got leaked, if this had gone to, what do you call it, the discussion, the actual
Proceedings,
decision,
I guess,
proceedings, it's likely it would have passed.
That's right.
Got it. Okay, that's very helpful.
And there's been, I think, Justice Alito was the one who drafted it and said this is not going to affect the proceedings, that it's been leaked. But in any case, just without spending too much time on like the news aspect of it, let's just talk about what we think about abortion. Now, obviously, this gets extremely sticky.
Mate, if any of our episodes should have a trigger warning on them, this is right up there.
Not only the like content, but also like navigating the conversation well to be thorough and charitable, and that you're actually making the main thing the main thing.
Sensitive,
So what I would like to not focus on is, as much as we can, the legal aspect. Even though I started there, that's just to set up why we're talking about this and why it's become a national conversation.
Okay, so you don't necessarily want to have a chit-chat about should it be protected under law. You want to talk about...
I guess I mean some of the like really detailed parts of how to... the legalization. Maybe. I mean, unless you feel differently, we can tiptoe there.
Okay.
But maybe it's just to separate. There are legal concerns and then there are moral concerns.
Right.
And I think it'd be worth focusing on one and trying not to cross streams. Just note that when, like, let me put it this way. To suggest that something be illegal because it's immoral presumes like this whole, and we've done podcasts on this before. I'd refer you back to ones on liberty limiting principles. Law is kind of by definition limiting your liberty. It's prescribing or restricting certain action. And so you're not free to just do anything if there's a law in place. Right? Is that fair?
That's right. That's the point of it.
And you'd like to have your laws be morally justified. You don't want immoral laws. Like you were overstepping your bounds and taking away liberty in this case.
Right.
And so there are different reasons for why you would limit someone's liberty. One theory is it is a good enough reason to limit liberty if that thing is immoral. Now, I am not suggesting that here.
Right.
I'm not.
Right.
That's a view called moralism, where
That
all laws,
immoral things should be outlawed. Is
or
that
just that it's a sufficient reason to make something illegal that it's immoral.
right?
There could be other, or it's sorry,
Yeah, necessary?
It's a necessary,
Not sufficient.
not sufficient.
So okay.
So there could be other reasons like cost of law enforcement. It's too hard to police. That would make it so that you would not make it illegal.
yeah.
But it's at least it's a good reason to count toward its being illegal, that it's immoral.
Yeah. But yeah, it is just worth clearing that up. Our intuition sometimes, at least mine, might feel like if I don't think carefully about it, anything that's immoral should probably be illegal. But that's actually an absurd way to approach. It seems to me like.
I mean, there's some respectable folks that hold that view. It's just that you just have to be careful of so you can be consistent. Not you, but myself too, as a thinker. Are there other things that I don't think should be illegal, but I still think are wrong? Like, let's say
lying to your spouse. This is what I was thinking of. It's like lying in a private conversation. It's immoral, but man, you're going to write that into law and then try to police that? That would be a really strange use of resources, even if we can all agree that the lying shouldn't probably happen, Is that a fair?
You brought in the resources thing, which isn't quite what we're saying. It's just that the mere fact of it being immoral it's a good reason to make something illegal. Now you may need other reasons, like it's possible, like monetarily, that we can actually enforce it.
Yeah.
But like one that is very commonly held is known as the harm principle. That it's a good reason to make something illegal if it brings harm to another person, let's say.
Yep.
The immoral thing is like, you have cases of just should lying to your spouse be illegal? We can say it's immoral, or like hardcore pornography. That in my personal view, that's immoral. But should that be illegal? Like we're saying you will be fined or whatever, or jailed if you do that. Anyway, just to point out that in this discussion, just note that if you do make that move where I'm making it illegal because it's wrong, then you're adopting this whole framework of a liberty limiting principle that would apply to
a lot of other things,
a lot of other cases,
a lot of other things. And look, I guess we can edit if we go too long. I was worried about a rabbit trail, but I do want to pin you down so that I have understanding. You said me bringing resources into it was kind of besides the point. But for example, can you just help me on the pornography thing? It's immoral, but does it make sense to jail people and enforce it? No, because of resources, right? Like,
yeah. So this is just to say that it is not a mark against the moralist who says things. It's a good enough reason for things that just because they're immoral that you would make it illegal. For them to say, yeah, but so it is a good reason to make it illegal that it's immoral, but there are countervailing reasons in the area of cost that we're not going to make it illegal.
Right.
So you're not like if you're a moralist, you could still say like we don't have the resources to police this.
But in an ideal world,
that's right.
It would be illegal.
That's right.
Got it. Is there some?
That feels like a rabbit trail a little bit. That whole diet, that was 15 minutes. Jeez.
I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah.
I'm just having a conversation.
Okay.
If it's too rambly, I'll edit it.
Okay.
And people will complain and whatever. But like, I just actually want to learn and understand. So I'm wondering if I am a moralist, and I'm trying to work out what's the argument against that? Why would you want let me say it clearly. Why would you not want, in an ideal world, all immoral actions to be considered illegal? Why would you not? What's the argument against moralism? How else would you make a decision about what should be legal? If we're saying not resources, now we're talking ideal world, unlimited ability to enforce.
Because one would be in a pluralistic society, it seems a little bit scary to hand over the keys to the kingdom of what counts as moral to the people in charge. It's immoral to vote conservative.
Boom.
So that's why it's been something maybe a little bit less abstract and just the harm principle. That's an easier thing to come to terms to find some agreement on what counts as a harm. Still hard, and there are gray cases, but there are the moralism piece allows for you to legislate and make things illegal, actions that don't really affect other people all that much, and so take away liberty to a greater extent than the harm principle would. So when you think of an immoral act, usually you are thinking of something that harms another person.
I'm trying to think of one that doesn't.
Well, I guess the watching of pornography is like a classic example.
I see.
This is often this debate happened a lot in the earlier days of trying to make that stuff illegal.
Got it. Okay.
Because we should make it illegal because it's wrong. And you're like,
but who's it harming?
And you're taking so you're
really
unjustifiably taking away my liberty. It's not a good enough reason to limit my liberty that you think it's wrong or that it is wrong. Let me do wrong things that don't harm other people. That's the gist.
And maybe to try to put a bow on it, that seems crucial for moral progress. I need the freedom to make wrong choices in order to grow in virtue. It feels like, tell me if I'm wrong, but I'm just thinking through, like, if I were denied even the freedom to make wrong choices,
are you really acting morally at all?
That's what
You're
I'm
being
wondering.
coerced.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So
you are not free to do otherwise.
Right.
And usually morality involves freedom of choice, responsibility. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's helpful. I know that was a rabbit trail, but I did need that.
Okay.
So, okay. let's steer us back into the topic at hand.
Because it can be. I'm being serious. Like, it can be tempting for those, like, let's say on the conservative side of the issue that would claim that abortion is wrong. Even that phrase is annoying because there's lots of different types of it in different stages. But we'll get to that a little bit later. That, like, I've seen on Facebook a lot already. I can't believe this is legal. It's so wrong. And I get what they're trying to say.
Yeah.
But just know what you're doing. You are forwarding, you're postulating this liberty limiting principle in the act of doing that.
Yeah.
That may lead to a whole system of laws, if played out to its logical extent, in a way that you don't actually agree with.
Yeah.
So let's be really careful with our terms.
Yeah.
Let's just revise that to say, if I can't believe they're making it legal, or they want to make it legal, it causes harm to a child. Okay. Now that's in line with the harm principle, a morally justified way to limit liberty that most people kind of agree with, and so you're less likely to talk past each other.
Yeah. Yep. This is the value of philosophy. This is the value of clear thinking. Because I am that person who will just, like, I don't know, on the face of it, a sentence will seem like it makes sense, but upon further inspection, you realize you've really made an error.
So let's just think about, how do we want to do this, man? I guess let's start with, the moral angle, or just maybe what even is abortion? What are we talking about?
Well, yeah, and maybe this will help you decide where to go. One of my great frustrations with this conversation is that it does seem like you end up talking past each other. One side wants to talk about female reproductive rights and the right to do what I want with my body.
Yes, very
and
common.
That's what it's all about. And the other side wants to talk about the rights of the other body that's present and that needs to be respected. But it's rare that I see this conversation actually meet at the point of disagreement, and instead it tends to be, you're talking about the wrong thing. No, you're talking about the wrong thing, and kind of talking past each other in that way. So I don't know if you need to tease out. Well, I would love to, in this approach, I know that you and I would not be in favor of abortion just heading into it, but I'd love to steel man the other side if we could.
Yeah.
Just in the spirit of intellectual honesty, curiosity, and really trying to grapple with what is the strongest pro-choice version of the argument, and let's try to deal with that if we can. I don't know how much that helps, but it seems like the strongest arguments I've heard have been around the woman's right to do with what she wants with her own body, and maybe the disagreement really boils down to is an embryo or a fetus, is that a body of another person that has rights or something? But
I agree, man. That to me is the crux of the issue, because can we just take that one for a minute? You don't have the right to tell me what to do with my body. So there's two ways to attack that idea. It's an idea, and fine, let's assess it. One answer would be, you're right, I don't, and that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about this other body that is deriving its nutrients and its life is being sustained by your body, but it's not your body. It's the body of this other person. So we can get in that for a second later. What is personhood, and when does that all begin? Because in our common talk about this, and I think in our legal documents, it's the person is the locus of rights, and rights are various restrictions that are placed upon others of how either to or not to treat me. If I have a right to something, then I'm either owed a certain good, or I have a right to your inaction. You may not harm me.
Yeah.
And things that have rights, at the very least, it's people have rights. We have done episodes on animal rights, and maybe other things have rights, like nature preserves and other inanimate things. I don't know.
AI, maybe.
But persons have rights. And the ones that most Americans are on board with in our declaration is they're inalienable. They can't be taken away from you. Rights are something inherent. They are in virtue of the type of thing that you are. Rights are not purely, some of them are socially constructed. Maybe like your, well, I'm going to butcher this. Maybe like your right to ride public transit or something. It seems more derivative than there are these natural ones. Right to life, right to property and liberty. So these are things I have in virtue of being a person. And so, yeah, to me, the question is that fetus, that entity growing inside you, a person or not? Does it have rights? The other angle that I think is kind of interesting is you don't have the right to control what to do with my body. Actually, we do. That's what literally every law ever does.
Right.
All laws do control your body for the most part, or like what you do with it,
they are
how you move your
coercive in that
mouth,
way.
where you can go,
Right.
What if you can do this on a gun, like pulling a trigger motion.
Can you
it's
swing
what
your
to do
fist?
with the body. So far, there aren't too many thought crimes. I don't think on the books. You're not allowed to think that. It's when it gets manifested out in the world. Yeah, we are controlling your body. My body is controlled. My male body. I cannot do certain things with my body, and I respect that. That's your right to restrict me in that way.
Controlled feels. Is there a different word we can use for that? Controlled to me just smacks of a bit more direct. It's like coerced, or there's limits on what you can do with your body, and we all accept that as part of being in a functioning society. You can't just walk into a store and throw coffee in people's faces. You can't do that. Like you can. You're not control. You can do it, but there will be consequences.
Yeah, and so I guess the proponent of, or I guess the opponent of abortion would say, abortion is one of those things that we deem it's justified to control you in that way. That sounds strange, but I'm just trying to use the language that you're using.
Yeah.
And all other laws do that. They say you can or cannot do this with your body. And we're saying one of those things is ejecting to intentionally eject a growing embryo. Let that keep happening. You know.
Okay. I said I wanted to. I don't feel like we did yet. Steel man the other side. And maybe we will struggle to do it just because of where we stand on this issue. But I don't want to be. I know. Look, there's going to be angry comments no matter when you do a video like this. But I would love to at least have some pro-choice people feel like they were fairly represented, and I don't want to just minimize their argument to don't tell me what to do with my body, and then a quick 1-2 gotcha, don't need to deal with it anymore. So is there some other vector, some other I guess there must be arguments for why the embryo is not a bearer of rights, or it's not a separate body. What's the strongest form of the argument I've heard?
So another line of argument that comes up is I did not consent to this happening. I did not give my consent to this one,
rape or something, you mean?
Well, certainly that, but I've seen it applied to other ways that it happens.
Oh, like someone lies
like
about birth control.
I didn't decide that I wanted this to happen. Therefore,
like it was surprise pregnancy.
Yeah, so my consent is being violated by a law that would force me to continue the pregnancy.
I see. That I have less.
Oh, so that isn't steel manning?
I just have less sympathy for that line of argument. Like if you're having intercourse, one of the byproducts of intercourse is pregnancy, and you just have to know that going in. It's like
you connect that to consent.
You did choose to engage in an activity which is known to lead to pregnancy. You chose to do that. Unless you got raped. That is a whole different story.
Let's talk about that one. I can't even imagine that situation. I have daughters, and that seems yeah, it's a nightmare of nightmares. Certainly, the pregnancy is without your consent.
Yeah.
You didn't want to engage in the act that leads to procreation in the first place, and so anything that happens as a result is beyond your consent. Though the question does still remain that we began with, as tough as that is emotionally, I still would like to know. That's why it really does for me. It comes down to, does the thing have rights?
Is it
or
a person?
Not?
Yeah, it does come down to that. Because even if it was I think this is where you're going. Even if the rape was not consensual, so the pregnancy was never desired, but now there does exist in the world this other being that is depending on you for sustenance. Do you have a moral obligation to continue to let it live off of your bloodstream? And okay,
it's not just another being. Also, it is your child. That feels different.
Like it's not a caterpillar.
No, just even if it's I think I do have even an extra,
if it's yours,
obligation. Like no one else could do it but me.
Oh,
it's not just
yeah.
This sounds so. This is probably not even worth saying, but I guess I do feel a special responsibility for feeding my children's mouths than ones across the globe.
Yeah,
I should help with that also, but I bear a particular burden for these ones that I've sired, and so the same applies in this as well.
Okay, help me with this, because here's an analogy, and I don't know if it's a fair analogy or not to the rape situation, but this is how I test my moral intuitions, is I run thought experiments, and then I try to pay attention to what does my gut say about the right thing to do in that situation. And then I bring it here to the podcast and I announce it publicly in front of everybody. And then you tell me whether it resonates with you as well. Okay. So imagine you're walking through the woods and you hear the cry of an infant that's been abandoned. It's just laying there in the woods by itself. It's going to die if you do nothing. And there is nobody else around for, let's say, 100 miles. There's nobody else around. You are the only one. You are uniquely positioned to save this child and help them live, even though you didn't want to find them or intend to stumble into them. Here you are, presented with a living creature. And my gut, my moral intuition just screams at me
Do something.
I do something to help that kid. That I feel as though I have a moral obligation to
go
step
to
in
great
and
lengths, even to
go above and beyond.
You don't have to adopt it,
Yeah,
but just get it to safety.
yeah. I really feel that I have that duty. Now I don't know if that's a fair. I mean, there's obviously some disanalogies there between the rape situation. That baby's not conjoined to me, and actually in this situation, me doing nothing is what causes the baby to die versus me doing something, and that's the opposite way around in the rape situation. So, but I don't know. Is that a fair analogy?
I share the moral intuition that you ought to help.
So I guess to bring that full circle, my suggestion is,
can I use that to help me assess the rape scenario?
Yeah. Is a mother who's found herself pregnant with an unwanted pregnancy because of something like a rape, are they obligated to care for that growing child to the same extent that I would be if I found one abandoned in the woods?
It shares the property of, like, you didn't give your consent, I guess.
Yeah. And that I'm the only one who can do it. Nobody else will help this kid.
I think it's as helpful as far as the similarities go. I mean, obviously the former case is fraught with like this extreme emotional toll that you're carrying the child of your abuser.
Yep.
And
you've got a reminder of the trauma with you. There's all of that goes into it. The whole pregnancy would have an element of trauma to it.
Yeah.
All of it.
So this is where we get to the legal question, perhaps, of like, maybe you do make space in your law for exemptions in those cases.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't love that in the sense of like it's strange to like prove you were raped
Mm-hmm. Right.
in order to allow for it's just bizarre, you know, and who knows what that would look
And
like.
It could get twisted, yeah.
But at least like abstractly, I don't know if I do know. It's my opinion that I do not think that case, those types of cases are enough to warrant making all permissible.
Mm-hmm.
That is so different from you consensually having sex with your boyfriend and then it's a 7-month-old in the womb and you now decide to have an abortion.
Mm-hmm.
Those are just so different cases that they deserve a different moral treatment.
Yeah.
And they deserve probably a different legal treatment.
Because I can think as well of like a situation where, say, the pregnancy or the delivery puts the mother's own life at risk, and there's a decision to be made there that I don't know how people make those kinds of decisions. But I could see an argument being made there for a justified abortion if it saves the mother's life.
To me, I personally don't find that one morally complicated.
No?
I find both the rights to life are equally at play.
They just negate each other.
And so not to diminish the emotional trauma, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, yeah.
But
it's not immoral.
I don't think so. And I do have the luxury of the distance from that.
Yeah.
To hopefully look at it as, I could see in the moment feeling like a bad mom or bad father to let the child go in favor of the mother. That's kind of been my position all along. We said that from the beginning.
Did you? You guys talked about it.
If we were ever faced with that we would save mom. Because other lives are
depending on
very, very much affected by it.
Yeah.
In the situation where the right to life is moot, if you will, then there's these others, the siblings that would be motherless.
Can we talk about how we've said that this whole thing ultimately hinges on whether or not the fetus or embryo is a person and has rights?
Now, this is crucial because, sorry to jump in.
Yeah.
You'll often see, I can't stand this, man. Honestly, it's my biggest pet peeve about the whole discussion.
Okay.
And folks that agree with me are just as guilty of it.
Yeah.
The debate has been the right to life, pro-life. Dude, tell me if I'm wrong about this. Any reasonable person should think that that's a living human being. That's just, I can't think of any reason why that wouldn't be true. Humans beget human beings. When they procreate, the moment that sperm fertilizes an egg and that DNA starts, that's a living being. What else would it be but a human? Humans give birth to humans. It's very small. It's at its smallest stage.
Yeah.
But if we're saying that Homo sapien is like is genetically based, like if you're looking at it from that scientific angle, there is one right there. That's a human person. That's a human being.
Yeah.
It's alive. It's replicating. It's a living being. So I can't stand the label pro-life. I don't like saying right to life. But that's a living human being, as though that added to the discussion. Everyone should agree it's a living human being. The question is it a person? Does it have rights? That's all I care about. Where is the locus of rights, and is that thing a rights holder? If it's not, then we can treat it like we do all the other things that don't have rights. Like
this chair.
Like my pants.
Yeah.
And honestly.
Yeah.
Or at the very least, like not animals that are non-persons, you know. And, I mean, we even accord them some degree of respect in a lot of circles, but what do you feel about that? It's a conception marks the beginning of human life. And I mean that to me that doesn't weigh in on the topic of abortion. I haven't begun to say anything that's relevant to that debate.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying, and I agree with you. I don't know what else an embryo could be other than a very small human.
Can you give birth to things other than humans? I don't mean that sounds
I don't think so. I don't think so.
okay.
I don't think so.
So I wish that was more. That's partially why I get frustrated when I look at any kind of language about this, because it's usually framed in that way, and it befuddles me.
I guess I'm maybe not quite getting why the language peeves you so much, because aren't you saying ultimately you are concerned about?
Is it a human life or not? What?
No, you don't care about that.
It is,
Yeah.
guys. And so even more so, I get so triggered by a side that claims it's not a life.
Right.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I would not stand on that leg. Don't do that. Like, let me give you some tips about how to do this. You know, that is a human life. It's a human being.
Okay. So then,
Does it have rights?
does it have rights? And that
Now,
would be,
sorry.
is it a person? I know you're excited. We'll get there. And does it have rights comes down to when is this human being a person?
Yes.
Is that at the moment of conception? Is it once the brain develops and consciousness comes online? How do you think about this? Where do you draw the line, and how do you?
So what we do know, I think what we can all. So what we do is we start with things that we can agree on, and that is, let's just take me. Right? Don't I have rights?
Seems like it.
Certainly under the law,
Uh-huh.
and morally, like I have these different rights. I have a right for you to not stab me in the heart. Okay. So when did I acquire them? I have them now. Did I always have them, or did I gain them at a time? So the pro-choice side of this needs to say gains them at a time. They are, it's by definition of their view, I think it implies that I did not always have them. From the moment I began to exist, I'm claiming that I had rights
Yes.
as a human being and as a person.
And as a person.
Yep, at the same time, at conception. If you don't go that route, then when is it? And you have to give a principled reason why. So I don't know there's various
Sorry,
suggestions that are offered. But
you're saying you've always had these rights? I don't know if you answered how you think about it.
that's what I was. Yeah, I think that I have.
You have them, and you've always had them
That's right.
because you've always been a person.
That's right. Does that help at all?
Maybe
Or
not,
another way of
just
saying
because-
it is that the moment that my human beingness began was contemporaneous with my personhood beginning. I began to exist, and at that exact moment,
Yeah.
I have inalienable rights of this.
For as long as you have been, so have the rights that you bear.
Yeah, that's my view.
That seems to make sense.
Now, you could agree with that and say, like, well, you just didn't start until 15 weeks. What
Right.
was before was something else.
This is what I'm wondering about, how you think about that.
So to me, I view the position of you not being a human being at any point kind of preposterous. So
Right.
I'm gonna
Right.
paint the view as though
Thank you.
you are.
Yeah.
You are a human being the whole time.
Yeah.
I've never stopped being that.
Yeah.
But maybe maybe you have the view that so you're a human being, you're not a person yet, and then at a certain time you became a person, a rights-bearing entity.
Like you, there was a body with no consciousness, but then you started dreaming, and something about your soul or your personhood came online.
So that's an option you can go with, is the arrival of a certain amount, I guess, or presence of consciousness. Is that what makes something a person, a rights-bearing entity?
The beginning of subjective experience. As soon as I have a subjective experience, I can be harmed. Right? Is that true? It's like those two seem to go together for me.
Yeah,
If we're saying the right is to not be harmed,
because
I can only ever be harmed insofar as I can have experiences.
your existence is able to go better or worse.
Yeah. Yes. But prior to consciousness, that's not
There's a
true.
what it's like that can be better or worse. A what it's like to be the thing you are. This microphone can be in worse or better shape,
but
there's
doesn't
no
know.
what it's like to be a microphone.
Right. That's well, maybe that's what we're trying to get at. Is
on this view, like, again, this is not my view, but
Yeah.
you could hold this view that's when personhood starts.
But you believe personhood starts at conception.
Yeah, right now. Yep. I would say that.
And how'd you arrive there?
All the other ones aren't very good. Take some time to sort through it, but
Let's do
maybe
it.
let's knock out some of the weaker contenders, in my opinion.
Yeah, let's sort through a few of them.
One that is often used in this is viability.
Yep.
That it's suddenly wrong to abort once it's viable outside the womb.
Yeah.
That a team of doctors and hospitals or whatever could keep it alive apart from the mother's womb.
Yeah.
So at that point, it becomes a social response. We now
It's
all
not
care
just
about
up
it
to the mom.
because it's possible for us to provide. It becomes our business now, in a way. Whereas it wasn't before. It's purely on the mother to sustain it. Yeah, so I don't know what you think about that one.
That it seems pretty arbitrary to me in terms of like that where the like one day before it doesn't have rights.
Well, certainly, like, even within a particular medical system, pinning down exactly when.
Well, that's the thing. Viable given what kind of assistance and what facilities. Like,
Yep. So to
like
me,
even a full-term baby is not just independent of the mother. Like, viable. I guess we don't mean independent. We mean it won't die if it leaves the womb, and we do a bunch of stuff to support it.
That's right. It could live apart from a womb. And that is a little bit like context dependent, depending on where you live in the world.
Yeah.
And the resources at your disposal. It could be like, I don't know, if you're in sub-Saharan Africa or just imagine a super poor place compared to the luxuries of the first world, there's a different viability point.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
And so you're saying that you're a person depending on where you're born? No, we can't.
Yeah.
We can't in good conscience make that our philosophy of persons. So maybe there's more to say about it, but to me, that's no-go. That's a no-go. Even worse, perhaps, is emerging from the womb. Exiting the birth canal, you become a person.
Oh, right then.
Yeah.
But not when she went into labor. It's not till you see the light of day.
Right. That seems super arbitrary. Then it's location.
Yeah, then it's right. Then it's location.
That's what makes you a person or not. It just doesn't. That seems like a category mistake.
Yeah.
Okay. Heartbeat.
Heartbeat. How do they? I'm thinking about.
This is where like conservatives, I think, go wrong too. I don't think this is a good argument. Look at its heartbeat.
Yeah.
I know, man. There's other things that have heartbeats though that I think we are morally justified in ending their life in cases of certain, like euthanizing.
Sure.
And that's a whole other thing. Someone's like, "Oh no, you think euthanasia is okay?" Certain circumstances, I think, make it morally permissible to do that, despite the presence of a heartbeat. There's a certain amount of brain activity.
If any of them were going to compel me, it's that one.
Brain activity.
Yeah, the consciousness piece. If I was going to say personhood arrives at some time after conception, that to me is the top candidate. Is once there is some inner subject of experience, then I really feel like there's a person there, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Can you say more why?
I don't know if I can. Do you mean because I don't feel the same way about like dogs or cows or something? Like
That would be a way to push in on that. Yeah.
like I
You don't call them,
there's a what it's like to be a centipede,
but they're not.
but they're not
people.
persons.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a problem for me. I can't articulate it well, and it's probably because of this ongoing that you've uncovered in many podcasts. My ongoing uncertainty around what exactly the person is and what a soul is and how that relates to consciousness. That is all a bit of a mystery to me. So
I do define persons like there's the legal, like the rights bearer, or the moral definition of person as one who bears these certain rights. The other one I use all the time is a locus of consciousness.
yeah,
And I would say that it's like nascent until the machinery comes online for that to occur.
okay. But even that definition there of locus of consciousness doesn't apply to centipedes and horses and things. They're not persons on your view.
No, because it's more, persons are more than that.
More than that. It's the soul you appeal to. Is that right?
I think a person is a soul,
Person is a soul.
a spirit, if you will.
And they have a body.
I'm there right now. Yeah.
Yep. And
So
the human
our
being
energy went down really
so
fast.
just
We're
really
just kind of like, oh yeah.
thinking through it. And so for you, a human being is a soul body composite. Right?
Yep.
A union of soul and body. That is what a human being is.
I think so. That sounds right. Unless you're gonna trap me.
And I know. That's how I feel on these things. And so, immediately upon conception, I'm just describing your view. Tell me if I'm wrong. Immediately upon conception, there is a new human being, body soul composite, right there.
I think that's my view
in the
right
very
now.
early stages.
Yep.
Bearing rights from.
I'm a little bit undecided, like on the Christian end of things. Like how do souls get generated? That's a tricky one. I'm undecided. Are souls specially created in that moment by God? Is it something that just emerges? It's part of like the natural order.
In the same way that bodies emerge, bodies beget bodies, do souls beget souls? Yeah. It's interesting. I'm interested. Feels speculative.
Sure. But it's like, yeah, man, I've seen similar reasoning go on in like, and again, I'm chief among sinners, but like in the animal rights stuff, there's often the presumption of higher levels of consciousness, or let's legislate, let's act in such a way that it does, just in case we don't egregiously violate rights and make what it's likes to be worse off. Like someone who feels troubled about being a pescatarian, that they eat fish. Someone might come back and say, or the pescatarian might say, well, I eat fish because I don't think the subjective life of a fish is all that
they can't suffer that much
and suffer that much. And so the pushback might be, well, man, that's so speculative. You don't really know. Like maybe it does just hurt. Like
they just
hell
can't
to get
scream.
your fin cut off, you know. So,
they just can't express it. So on the side of.
They look like they do. You know, have you seen a fish, man? They really their eyes are wide open.
I think often about how tough it is for fish when they end their life flopping around on the deck, gasping. Dude, that'd be a horrible way to go. Anyway, but you're saying on the side of assuming greater ability to suffer rather than lesser in a case where we don't know.
Yeah. So so the analogy here, like assume that why not err on the side of personhood starts a little bit sooner, I guess. You know,
because of how great the cost would be if it turns out that is true.
That's right. You would be doing something immoral. you're violating a right to something that has a right to life. That's what we're talking about here. Like it's
Well, yeah.
morality is at stake.
Yeah, yeah. I'm wondering, are there those out there who maybe not?
Again, a little bit separate from the legal issue for a moment. I don't want someone to think I'm being inconsistent by harping about the morality, because I'm not saying that is the reason to make it illegal.
Right.
Just right now, let's say there was just a super safe way to do it yourself. You just took a pill.
Take a pill.
I don't know.
It's done.
Worrying about the ethics of it. So that's kind of where I land, and honestly, I haven't really heard an awesome argument against it, or I'd be willing to
Against the personhood of embryos.
Yeah. No other line has been offered that makes it worth changing the position because of the, I don't know, Pascal's wager sort of reasoning there, the cost benefit analysis of it, and just the straight up logic of, is it arbitrary or not?
Yeah, I wonder if there's just a I don't know what the name of it would be, some kind of bias that's at play. When I look at, say, an embryo, if I were to look at an embryo under a microscope, say, I don't feel that same empathetic compassion that I feel towards a grown human when I see them, or even a baby that's been born or something. And it is a little easier in my mind to think about it as being non-human, or it doesn't appear to me very personable. It seems very much like an object, a cluster of cells, like a bunch of other cells I got in my body or whatever. And it's as it grows, it becomes increasingly, physically looks and represents more and more what I associate a human being with being, and my feelings of empathy for it grow. So I can understand why there is this feeling early on that, well, there's nobody really there that's going to suffer if we do this,
And so, I'll say this, I could definitely be wrong about this, and maybe let's shift this. This is now where the legal part maybe is helpful. Is this right? I don't know for sure, but I'm going to throw this out there. Almost all of the proposals of banning abortion refer to different stages of this process. And so,
of what process?
Of gestation.
Oh, okay. All right.
I think very few are saying none at all ever. For instance, just because it's hard, like we're not banning the morning after pill,
right? Which
would effectively be what's the word?
I forget the
infanticidal or abortive type of medication that you would take. An embryo could have latched onto the uterine lining, and then the morning it flushes it out. So that would technically be an abortive act, but you don't know if that happened. Almost none of that is on the table. Most of these are, like I saw recently, I think it's in Georgia, it's post 15 weeks. We're going to ban it, which would include anything you were worried about with the conscious
resembling and brain activity and all that.
At that point, that stuff's there.
Yeah.
So I think there's
a lot of
surprisingly
early, dude. I was surprised when we went through the pregnancy process how early on it's like, oh, that's a little person. It just looked like it, and I can see brain and I can see heart, and
so we can have a good faith discussion and I disagree super charitably about those early moments, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe and like taking the Christian theology part, maybe the thing gets ensouled when there is this kind of more robust kind of seedling
machinery
of consciousness. Maybe that's the case, but almost every legal measure is after that.
Right.
So I do get a little bit frustrated
really
too with, like, how should I put it?
Yeah.
That what's on the table isn't even to me like the good faith kind of discussion of personhood.
Yeah.
It's all after that. Like, this is it's just a smaller baby.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it can hear mom and dad's voice and all these, like, there's definitely a what it's like to be it.
Yeah, warmth and pressure and sound and
Yep.
yeah.
And it has like C fibers that pain receptors,
Yeah.
and like its life can go better or worse. Like it can die, and that's bad for it to die.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that most of the measures, the legal measures, are about.
That's why it's so like
15
when
weeks
you see headlines banning abortion, and it makes you think that everyone wants to ban any possible semblance of it, and maybe they do in the heart of hearts, or maybe even out loud. If I had my druthers, I would, but I am not advocating that. I'm saying that this should be the law. Maybe they would say it's immoral. Again, here's the crucial distinction.
Yep.
Maybe your personal opinion is that it's immoral at any stage, but legally, we're on just more unanimous grounds to do this. It's troubling, man. There's a lot of public figures that celebrate it as a badge of honor. Like, I had an abortion.
That's odd to me.
And women should own it. It's part of your journey. We can get into the whole. So we haven't yet talked about the cost to a woman to undergo an abortion, as though that is like a neutral thing to do. Extremely. I mean, there's
invasive. Yeah.
Well, there's whole. You can go for like the Right to Life marches at DC, and they get. I mean, I don't know. These are real people standing up on, telling their story of how like they felt suicidal, they really regretted
Afterward,
having one, and the emotional toll that took, and they wish they could take it back. Not that that's everyone's experience, but like that can happen, and so that should be on the table here, right? And it often is not.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just piling on at this point.
I don't know how much more I have to add.
One final thing, I guess, on the legal end of like what's currently happening. So just to bring it full circle, what's on the table is just that we're not saying it's always illegal to have an abortion.
Right.
What I said was it's no longer a federal law. So then what happens is every state then has the option to make laws about it.
Yep.
Again, this was never legislated, which has been kind of the conservative legal complaint for 50 years. Is no voted in representative made this a law.
Yeah.
It was
just
legislated from the bench,
Yeah.
as it's sometimes said. The court made this the law of the land.
Yeah.
And they're not supposed to do that. So let's send it back to the states, and then have people elect representatives to legislate laws for their state.
Yeah. That makes sense to me. Yep.
It makes a lot of sense, man.
Yep. So where is it at? Is that what's happening then?
That's what's on the table. Everyone agrees that that's what's on the table.
The opinion piece is send it to the states.
It's
have
no
it not be
longer
federally
constitutionally protected.
Right.
So, like abortion is, just what I said before.
Yeah.
So, and some states will retain that on their books, and that will go through the legislative process, and
Yep.
we are going to allow you to do that, and some will not.
And some people will move or travel interstate.
And there's interesting legal conversations about like, can you go to a different state to have that procedure done and then come back? Is that okay? And that's worth figuring out.
Totally happen, yeah.
But in any case, I thought it was worth talking about. That's kind of my
Long overdue. We haven't had this talk in a long.
that's my stake on it.
Yeah.
I think it's a separate body. It's not the woman's body, so that's a red herring.
Right.
It's what we're talking about are persons, not lives. It is a living human being. please write in if you think it's something else. I'd love to hear what you think that is.
Yeah.
The blastocyst, of 50 cells or whatever. Yeah, it's a human being, has human DNA. So I don't know what else it is.
Yep.
The question is it a person? Or when does it become a person, if it becomes one at all? I would say the moment that the human being started, personhood started, mostly due to a lack of other really compelling points along that line.
And a desire to err on the side of caution.
Right.
Right?
That's the argument.
Yeah.
If you have reasons for me that I should try to address those points, please don't just reiterate, I don't know. It's a woman's right to choose.
Yeah.
Well, it may be, but does that other thing have rights as well?
Yeah,
And
that's really what we care about.
That is the crux of it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, if you've got thoughts, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. If you've got thoughts, we want to hear them. You can leave comments on this video on YouTube. You can write into the show mailbag@opentotruth.com. And we genuinely mean it. We want you to join the conversation. If there's flaws in our reasoning, we want to know about it so we can shore it up. Like, our goal is to get closer to truth through everything that we're doing here, not just to shout our opinions from the rooftops. So if you've got something to add, something to offer, by all means write in, and we'd love to hear from you. And we have a blog that you should sign up for. What is it again? Substack.
It's on Substack. It's called Stay Curious.
Yep.
And that's the best way to support us. We're just trying to grow that email list, to reach out to you, let you know what's coming up, and I'd love to have you join us there.
Sweet. All right. Thanks. We'll see you next time. Stay curious.